When I was about 13 years old, I found a stack of books sitting on my dad's desk. The one on top was called the Encyclopedia of Angels. It looked exactly how you'd imagine. Beams of light piercing big fluffy clouds, Michael the Archangel descending from heaven, and I remember it piquing my interest. So I picked it up to read it, only to reveal a somewhat similar book underneath. It was the same size, the same style, same publisher, only this one was titled The Encyclopedia of Demons. And I knew immediately that I wanted to read that one instead. So I set the angelic encyclopedia aside and thumbed through the demonic encyclopedia. And I've spent the last 20 years wondering why. Why was this one so much more interesting? Why was my knee-jerk reaction to go immediately towards the dark and macabre book? Why did the demon book feel less like a warning and more like an invitation? It wasn't because I hated angels, not because I was trying to be a rebellious edgelord, and definitely not because I was interested in worshiping demons. It was just more fascinating. And I've spent 20 plus years pondering this idea. So in this video, I wanted to examine this. And I feel like it's a topic I'll pick back up down the road. Welcome to the Ninth Gate. This is our first episode, and I wanted to start with a question that I've carried for most of my life. Why are some of us drawn to dark, creepy, and unsettling things? Not evil things per se, but the weird, macabre, eerie, and forbidden things. Things that live at the edge of our humanity. Ancient ruins swallowed by time, haunted places no one wants to enter, sigils no one remembers how to read, myths buried beneath centuries of dust. Demons, monsters, creatures, all the strange things that seem to stand just beyond the border of the known world. Why have I always been drawn to them? Why do I always like the anti-hero and not the knight in shining armor? Why have I and so many other people always been drawn to this subject matter? One answer might be that human beings have always been fascinated by the forbidden. Not just because we want to break the rules, but because a boundary suggests that something exists beyond it. The places we're told not to go, the doors we're told not to open, the questions we're told not to ask. The moment something is hidden from us, it becomes charged with meaning. It becomes a mystery, a warning, an invitation. Tell somebody not to push a button, suddenly that's the only thing that they can think about. But I don't think we're actually fascinated by the warning itself. I think we're fascinated by what the warning suggests. Because the moment someone says, "Don't go there," they've revealed something important. They revealed that there is a different there. That something exists beyond the boundary, beyond the fence, behind the mountains. The warning doesn't simply tell us what to avoid. It hints that something is hidden, something unknown, and something worth discovering. And human beings have always been drawn towards hidden things. Forbidden knowledge, lost cities, secret passages, buried treasure, ancient ruins, the things at the edge of our understanding. That place where what we know ends and what we don't know begins. Maybe that's why stories like Pandora's Box, the Garden of Eden, and Prometheus stealing fire from the gods have survived for thousands of years. Because I don't think they're really stories about disobedience. I think they're stories about curiosity, about the irresistible urge to know, to reach, to understand, to open what was sealed, to see what was forbidden, and to steal fire from the heavens. We want to see what waits just on the other side. And maybe that's because deep down we understand something important. Everything we know once lived beyond that boundary, or beyond a boundary. Every discovery, every invention, every new world, every forbidden truth. At some point, it was hidden in the unknown, waiting in a place no one had reached yet. And the unknown has always been dangerous. But it is also where possibility lives. So when we are told not to go somewhere, when we are warned away from what lies beyond the edge of what we can see, something in us wants to know. Something in us asks, why not? What's out there? And why am I not supposed to know? But maybe I'm asking the wrong question. Maybe the question isn't, why do I like dark things? Maybe the question is, why am I always looking beyond the horizon? Because when I think about the things that have fascinated me throughout my life, they all seem to have something in common. The cave, the forest, the ruins, the monster, the demon, the abandoned building, the edge of the map. They all symbolize the same thing, and that is the unknown. And the unknown exerts a strange pull on us. It calls us forward. The moment a mystery appears, something inside us wants to go see it. Something inside us wants to investigate it, to explore, to take one more step. A mystery is a question that refuses to leave us alone. And maybe that's why mystery sits at the center of every great adventure ever told. Nobody leaves home because everything is understood. Nobody crosses oceans because they already know what's waiting on the other side. Nobody descends into the cave because they expect nothing to be there. We take those routes and we go there because we don't know. Because there is always a possibility that something exists beyond what we can see. A new world, some hidden truth, a treasure, a creature no one's seen before, a transformation. The known world can only show us what already is. The unknown contains what could be. And maybe that's the real attraction. If I'm being totally honest, I do like dark things, and I like the danger, and I like the thrill of looking into a place I'm not supposed to look. I like going to the place I'm not supposed to. But I don't think that the darkness is a dead end. It's just where the mystery happens to live. It's a container for possibility. The possibility that beyond the next hill, beyond the next door, beyond the next question, something extraordinary is waiting. And perhaps that's what adventure really is. The pursuit of what lies beyond the edge of the map. Every great story seems to understand this. The hero never becomes the hero by staying where he's safe. The transformation doesn't happen when you're at home, when you're in your village. It happens in the forest, in the cave, in the underworld, and at the edge of what we know. And what waits there? It's almost always the same thing: a dragon, a beast, a monster, something that terrifies us. Something we don't know. Something standing between the hero and whatever they seek. And these figures appear in stories across nearly every culture on Earth. Different names, different faces, different myths, but somehow the same pattern. The dragon guards the treasure. The troll guards the cave. A demon stands at the gate. And the thing we seek is always hidden behind the thing that we fear. I think Carl Jung was onto something when he talked about the shadow. The parts of ourselves we'd rather not look at. Our fears, our flaws, our anger, our ambition, our capacity for destruction. The things we hide from the world, and sometimes from ourselves. Maybe monsters aren't just some creature waiting for us. I think that we can look at them as though they are mirrors, a reflection. Maybe the reason they appear at the edge of the map is because they represent a part of reality and ourselves that we don't yet understand. And that's what makes them so fascinating. Not because they're evil, but because they're actually meaningful. Every monster asks the same question. Will you turn back, or will you continue forward? Because every transformation demands a price. The old version of you cannot cross into new territory. Something must be confronted, and something must be sacrificed. Something has to change. And maybe that's why the dragon is always guarding the treasure. Because the treasure was never really the point. The journey, the adventure, and the transformation is the point. So when I look back, why did 13-year-old me choose the demon book? Why did my attention immediately drift toward the thing I was probably supposed to avoid? Being raised in a very religious environment, this may have been frowned upon. But I think I chose it because it represented something I've been chasing my entire life. The unknown. The possibility that something existed beyond the edge of the map. The possibility that there was more to the world than what I currently understood. More mystery, more adventure, more questions. Because when I think about all these things that have fascinated me, they all seem to be connected by the same thread. The ancient and forgotten ruins, the forest that's haunted, the creature or monster that lives somewhere dark, the primordial myth, the distant mountaintops, the abandoned road, the strange symbol I don't know, or the forbidden book. All of them point toward the same thing. The horizon. That same place where everything we know ends. And maybe that's why some of us can never stop looking. Because the horizon never actually goes away. Every answer reveals another question. Every mountain reveals another mountain. Every mystery opens the door to an even larger question or larger mystery. And somewhere deep down, some of us hear that call. The call to the unknown. The call toward adventure. The call to step beyond the boundary of what is familiar and see what waits on the other side. Maybe that's why I picked up the demon book. Not because it was dark, but because it was a doorway. Because it was an opening to the unknown, the strange, the mysterious, the things I don't understand. Maybe that's what the ninth gate is really about. All the strange questions, the forgotten stories, the symbols nobody knows, the myths, the mysteries, and the things that wait beyond the edge of our known world. And maybe I'll see you all on the other side.